Welcome to my channel, The World of Science Fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
The explosion ripped through the orbital mining rig with silent fury. In the vacuum there was no sound, only the violent shudder of metal tearing apart, the brief flash of oxygen igniting, and then darkness. The Helios station, once humanity's proudest deep space extraction facility, became a cloud of debris spinning toward the alien planet below. Liam Hardow's eyes snapped open to blackness. Pain screamed through his left side. Something wet and warm trickled down his temple. He tried to move but found himself pinned beneath a twisted beam. "Systems offline," chirped the station's dying AI. "Life support critical. Evacuate immediately." Evacuate to where, Liam thought. They were 400,000 kilometers from the nearest outpost. The emergency lighting flickered on, dim red bulbs that cast more shadows than light. Liam pushed against the beam with trembling arms. It shifted just enough for him to drag himself free. His uniform was torn, exposing a gash along his ribs. Not deep, but painful. He glanced at his wrist display. Oxygen at 78% and falling. A crash echoed from somewhere in the wreckage. Then another. Liam froze. "I'm not alone." He grabbed a broken pipe as a makeshift weapon and limped toward the sound. Each step sent vibrations through the metal floor, amplified in the eerie silence. The thud of his boots, hollow, rhythmic, betrayed his approach to whatever waited ahead. The corridor twisted unnaturally where the explosion had warped the structure, walls bearing the scars of intense heat. Through the gaps in the buckled panels, Liam glimpsed the stars, cold, indifferent witnesses to the station's death. The corridor ahead was blocked by a collapsed ceiling panel. Through a narrow gap, he glimpsed movement on the other side. Plastic creaked and snapped as something, or someone, shifted in the debris. Liam's throat tightened. He tasted metal. Blood or fear, he couldn't tell. "Hello," he called, his voice barely audible over the hiss of escaping air. The response came as a metallic groan, followed by what sounded like cursing in a language he didn't recognize. Liam squeezed through the gap, jagged edges scraping against his uniform. His palms pressed against the cold metal, fingernails black with grime and blood. He found himself in what remained of the command module. Through shattered viewports, Liam saw faces. Not human, but the reflected emergency lights that burned like desperate eyes in the darkness, watching his every move. "Don't go in there." The voice made him jump. Technician Mei Lin stood in a recessed doorway, her face half illuminated by a flickering panel. Something crashed through from the military sector. Could be one of them. Her eyes were wide with panic. "Why would you open the door to that section? You'll kill us all." Before Liam could respond, he heard it again. The unmistakable sound of metal scraping against metal. He turned away from Mei Lin and pushed forward. That's when he saw her. A massive figure in scorched combat armor was pinned beneath a fallen support column. Nearly 2.2 meters tall, even half buried under debris. The insignia on her shoulder marked her as Commander Tina, one of the elite warriors assigned to protect the station. Her helmet was cracked, revealing a face streaked with blood and fury. Her eyes locked onto Liam. "Technician," she barked, recognizing his uniform. "Get this off me." Now, Liam hesitated. During his 6 months on Helios, he'd never spoken to any of the military personnel directly. They existed in a separate hierarchy, barely acknowledging the civilian staff. "You're lower rank," she snapped. "Obey." Liam's fingers tightened around his pipe. 6 months of taking orders, of being invisible, and now this. He spotted a crowbar hanging from a nearby emergency kit. Without a word, he grabbed it and tossed it onto the floor beside her. "Dig yourself out," he said, turning away. The sound of shifting metal made him look back. In one fluid motion, Tina had freed her right arm and was swinging the crowbar at his head. Liam ducked, the makeshift weapon missing him by centimeters. Their eyes met again. Hers burned with rage, but something else too. Surprise. No one had ever disobeyed her before. She could kill him with her bare hands. They both knew it. For a heartbeat, her muscles tensed, ready to strike again. Then she lowered the crowbar. "The station's breaking apart," she said, her voice level but strained. "We need to reach the escape pods." "Those were in Section 4, Liam replied. "There is no Section 4 anymore. I saw it tear away when I regained consciousness." The lights flickered, plunging them into darkness for 3 terrifying seconds before returning. Somewhere distant, metal screamed as it bent beyond tolerance. "Help me," she said. Not an order this time. Almost a request. Liam approached cautiously. Together, they managed to shift the column enough for her to drag herself free. As she stood, Liam noticed her left leg armor was crushed, blood seeping through the joints. "You're hurt," he said. "Irrelevant," she replied, testing her weight on the injured leg. She winced but remained standing. "What's your name, technician?" "Liam Hardo." "Well, Hardo, we need to find communications. Send a distress signal." The main comms array was destroyed in the explosion, but there's an emergency beacon in Maintenance Tunnel B. She nodded. "Lead the way." Liam hesitated. "Why should I trust you?" "Because we're the only 2 people alive on this wreck," she said flatly. "And because I didn't kill you when you defied me." He couldn't argue with that logic. The tunnels were worse than Liam expected. Half collapsed in places, with exposed wiring sparking dangerously. The station's gravity generators were failing, causing periodic shifts that sent loose debris floating momentarily before crashing back down. Tana moved with military precision despite her injury, scanning each junction before proceeding. Her armor was powered down, likely damaged in the explosion, making her movements slower, more deliberate. "How long have you been stationed here?" Liam asked, trying to distract himself from the growing pain in his side. "That's classified," she replied without looking back. "Right. Sorry I asked." They reached a fork in the tunnel. Liam pointed left. "This way." "No," Tana said. "The structural integrity of that section is compromised. We go right. That adds 20 minutes to our route. The beacon is... 20 minutes is better than being crushed to death, technician." She pushed past him, heading right. Liam stood his ground. "I've worked these tunnels for 6 months. I know every bolt and panel. You go right if you want. I'm going left." Before she could respond, he ducked into the left passage. He heard her curse behind him, but kept moving. 3 steps in, he heard a crack overhead and looked up just as a support beam gave way. Tana's armored form slammed into him from behind, pushing him forward as the beam crashed down where he'd been standing. The impact sent them both sprawling onto the floor. "That's why we don't go left," she groaned, rolling off him. Malin appeared at the junction, her maintenance uniform torn and stained with hydraulic fluid. She looked from Liam to Tana, eyes narrowing with suspicion. "Why are you helping her?" she demanded, voice trembling with either fear or anger. "The military section was hit first. They're saying it was targeted. She could be with them." "With who?" Liam asked, helping Tana to a sitting position. "The attackers." Malin gestured wildly at Tana. "You think this was an accident? Someone wanted this station destroyed. And her kind. They're always in the middle of it." Tana's face hardened. "Civilian? You're speaking without information." "I have enough information," Malin spat. "I saw the military transport dock an hour before the explosion. No scheduled arrival, no manifest." She turned to Liam. "We should hand her over to security. If anyone's still alive in that section..." Liam looked between the 2 women. Malin, frightened but determined. Tana, wounded but dangerous. "She's injured," he said finally. "I'm not abandoning her." "Then you're a fool," Malin replied. "When they come looking for survivors, do you think they'll care that you played nurse to the enemy?" She backed away. "I'm finding a way off this death trap. Don't follow me." She disappeared down the right tunnel, footsteps echoing until they faded into silence. Liam sat up, a retort dying on his lips when he saw Tana's leg. The impact had worsened her injury, tearing open the armor completely. A jagged piece of shrapnel was embedded deep in her thigh. "You need medical attention," he said. "No time." She tried to stand but collapsed back down. "We need to keep moving." Liam shook his head. "Not with that in your leg. You'll bleed out." He reached for the first aid kit clipped to his belt, thanking whatever deity might be listening that he hadn't lost it in the explosion. "I can remove it myself," she insisted, gripping the metal shard. "Don't." Liam grabbed her wrist. "You'll cause more damage." For a moment, they were locked in another battle of wills. Then, surprisingly, she relented. "Fine. Do it quickly." Liam opened the kit and pulled out a pair of forceps and a tube of sealant gel. "This is going to hurt. Just get on with it." He carefully examined the wound. The shrapnel had pierced through the armor joint and embedded itself in the muscle. Removing it would cause heavy bleeding. Instead of speaking, Liam placed his hand just above the wound, his touch steady, grounding. Their eyes met, his conveying reassurance, hers acknowledging trust. His fingers pressed firmly against her thigh, controlling blood flow. Her hand moved to his shoulder, gripping tightly, preparing for the pain to come. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded once, her jaw clenched. Liam gripped the metal with the forceps and pulled with steady pressure. Tana's entire body went rigid, her fingers digging into his shoulder, but she didn't make a sound. The shard slid free with a sickening noise. Blood immediately welled up from the wound. Working quickly, Liam applied the sealant gel, which hardened on contact with blood, creating a temporary patch. He then wrapped the area with a pressure bandage from the kit. When he finished, Tana's face was pale, beaded with sweat. Without thinking, Liam reached up and wiped a smudge from her cheek. "You've got dirt on your cheek, Commander," he said softly. Her eyes widened in surprise. No one had ever touched her so casually. For the first time in her life, she didn't know what to say. To Liam's shock, she laughed, a short, sharp sound that seemed to surprise her as much as him. It wasn't amusement, but recognition of the absurdity. A junior technician, fussing over her appearance while they were trapped in a dying station. Their faces were close, the shared moment suspended in the dim emergency lighting. Something shifted in her expression. Vulnerability, perhaps, or recognition. His hand lingered near her face a second too long. The moment was broken by a distant rumble. The station shuddered around them. A ceiling panel crashed down meters away, narrowly missing them both. "We need to move," Liam said, standing and offering his hand. She took it. The emergency beacon was exactly where Liam had said it would be, tucked into a reinforced compartment at the end of Maintenance Tunnel B. The device was old, a backup system rarely inspected, but it was intact. "How do we power it?" Tana asked, examining the unit. Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out his technician's multi-tool. "We bypass the main power and connect it directly to the auxiliary battery." His fingers moved with practiced efficiency, rewiring the connections. The beacon hummed to life, its display glowing a faint blue. "How long until someone picks up the signal?" Tana asked. "Depends on who's listening," Liam replied. "Hours, maybe days." "We don't have days." "The station is breaking apart." Liam checked his wrist display. "Oxygen at 53%. If we're careful, we've got about 18 hours. Tana nodded, then reached into a compartment on her armor and pulled out a small package. "Emergency ration," she explained, tearing it open. "One left." She broke the protein bar in half and offered a piece to Liam. He hesitated before accepting it. "Why share?" "You patched my leg," she said simply. "Eat." They sat in silence, consuming the tasteless emergency food. The station creaked and groaned around them like a dying animal. "I had a sister," Tana said suddenly. "Nika. She died in a collapse like this. Mining accident on Terrace Prime." Liam looked up, surprised by the personal disclosure. "I'm sorry." "She wasn't military. Engineer like you. Smarter than me." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "Always fixing things I broke as a child." Liam found himself sharing in return. "My brother was military. Enlisted when I was 16. They called him a hero when he came back." "But," Tana prompted, sensing there was more. "But he ran," Liam said, the words bitter in his mouth. "Left his squad behind during an ambush. Came home with medals while better men died." Tana studied him. "Is that why you work so far from home? Away from his shadow?" Liam didn't answer, but his silence was confirmation enough. "Your wound needs cleaning again," he said, changing the subject. He took out an antiseptic swab from the med kit. "The seal is holding, but I'm worried about infection." She extended her leg with a grimace. Liam carefully removed the temporary bandage. The wound was red and angry, but the sealant had stopped the bleeding. As he cleaned around the edges, he noticed another injury higher up, a long, puckered scar that disappeared beneath her undersuit. Instinctively, he reached toward it. Tana's hand shot out, gripping his wrist with surprising strength. "Not that one," she said, her voice suddenly cold. Liam nodded, withdrawing his hand. "Sorry, I just thought—" "It's old," she interrupted. "Nothing to be done about it now." He worked in silence for a moment, applying a fresh layer of antiseptic to the new wound. "How did it happen?" he asked finally. Tana's jaw tightened. "Plasma cutter. Garrison uprising on Eridani 6. 3 years ago. Must have been a close call. It wasn't an accident, she said flatly. I was captured. They wanted information. Her eyes grew distant. I didn't give it to them. Liam's hands paused in their work. The implications hung between them. Torture, resistance, escape. He finished dressing the wound without asking more questions. As he secured the new bandage, his fingers brushed against a small metal object tucked into a pocket on her thigh. About the size of his thumb, it appeared to be made of brushed steel with intricate etchings along its surface. What's this? He asked. Tana reached down and removed the object. Memory token, she said, holding it up to the dim light. From my home colony. It wasn't a military-issue item, too personal, too ornate. The etchings formed patterns that reminded Liam of ocean waves or wind currents. May I? He asked, extending his hand. She hesitated, then placed it in his palm. The metal was warm from her body heat, heavier than it looked. The surface was worn smooth in places, as if it had been handled countless times. A faint scent clung to it, something sharp and briny, like sea salt. Everyone from my sector receives one when they complete their first hunt, she explained. Mine was a deep-water predator. Took 3 days to track it. You're from a coastal colony? She nodded. Vostok Islands, northern continent. Liam returned the token, watching as she slipped it back into its hiding place. I've never heard of it. Few have. It's not marked on most charts. A wistful expression crossed her face, quickly masked. The winters were magnificent, ice sheets that stretched to the horizon. The sound they made when they broke in spring, like the planet itself was waking up. The beacon chirped, indicating it had begun broadcasting their distress signal. Somewhere out there, someone might be listening. We should keep moving, Tana said. Find a more secure location to wait. The fabrication bay, Liam suggested. It's reinforced to contain accidents. If anything's still intact, it would be there. Tana tried to stand, wincing as she put weight on her injured leg. Without asking, Liam moved to help her. This time she accepted his assistance without protest. The route to the fabrication bay took them through the station's central spine, a long corridor now twisted and buckled. Progress was slow, with Tana struggling to navigate the obstacles despite her training. Wait here, Liam said when they reached a particularly damaged section. I'll see if I can clear a path. He moved ahead, carefully testing each step. The floor plates had separated, revealing the darkness of space below, protected only by the transparent emergency containment field. Technology designed to seal breaches temporarily. It hummed with strain, occasional flickers suggesting it wouldn't last much longer. Liam found a section of fallen ceiling panel that could serve as a makeshift bridge. As he dragged it into position, Tana called out, "Someone's responding to the beacon." Liam hurried back. Tana had managed to patch her armor's communications system into the station's emergency frequency. "Repeat, this is Transport Vessel Marauder, responding to distress signal," came a scratchy voice. "Identify yourselves." Tana activated the comm. "This is Commander Tana Voss, Security Division. Helios Station has suffered catastrophic failure. 2 survivors requiring immediate extraction." There was a pause before the response came. "Acknowledged, Commander. We're calculating your position now. ETA 4 hours. Relief washed over Liam's face. "We're going to make it." But Tana's expression had hardened. "Marauder isn't one of ours," she said quietly after cutting the transmission. "It's a mercenary vessel." "How do you know?" "The response pattern. No verification codes." She checked her damaged weapon system. "We need to be ready for anything." Liam's hope deflated. "So we might be rescued by people who want to kill us?" "Or worse," Tana said grimly. "The technology on this station is valuable. So is military intelligence." As she spoke, Tana reached up to adjust her damaged armor. The movement caused something to slide from a hidden compartment near her collar. A thin strip of fabric that fluttered to the floor between them. It was about 30 centimeters long, woven from fibers that shimmered with an iridescent blue-green pattern, even in the dim emergency lighting. Liam picked it up before she could stop him. The material was unlike anything he'd felt before. Impossibly light yet strong, with a texture that reminded him of silk but far more resilient. It carried a distinctive scent, the same briny smell as her token, but stronger, mixed with something else he couldn't identify. "What is this?" he asked, running his fingers over the intricate weave. Tana snatched it back, her expression guarded. It's called sea thread. From my home world, she carefully folded the fabric and tucked it back into her armor. It's ceremonial. Worn by members of my clan. The way she hesitated made Liam suspect there was more to it than she was saying. It's beautiful, he said. I've never seen anything like it. You wouldn't have. The organism that produces it only lives in the deep trenches of our northern sea. Her fingers lingered on the spot where she'd hidden the fabric. This was my mother's. It's all I have left of her. The confession hung in the air between them, an unexpected moment of vulnerability from someone who seemed made of steel and discipline. Liam's mind raced. So what do? We have two options. Hide and hope they miss us, or reach the auxiliary hangar and try to escape in a shuttle. Is there even a shuttle left? Only one way to find out. The station trembled again, more violently this time. They were running out of time one way or another. You should go without me, Liam said suddenly. You're the one with valuable information. I'll just slow you down. Tana studied him for a long moment. Is that what your brother would say? The question cut deep. Liam had spent years trying to be different from his brother, yet here he was, suggesting the same cowardice. No, he admitted. He would have made it sound noble. A sacrifice. But it would have been fear. And is that what you're feeling now? Fear? Yes, Liam said honestly. But that's not why I suggested it. You have a better chance alone. Tana approached him, her movement smoother with the brace he'd built. I've fought in 3 planetary conflicts and led 2 extraction teams in hostile territory. Do you know what I've learned? Liam shook his head. No one survives alone. She held out her hand. We go together. Their fingers had just touched when the door to the fabrication bay slid open. 3 armed figures in sealed environmental suits stood in the entrance, weapons raised. Commander Tana Voss, said the lead figure. Your presence is required. Tana pushed Liam behind her, raising her own weapon. By whose authority? Coalition High Command, the figure replied, removing their helmet to reveal a woman with captain's insignia. I'm Captain Reeves, Special Recovery Division. We received your distress call. The Marauder isn't a coalition vessel, Tana said, weapon still raised. It's a designated cover. We were tracking a saboteur when the station was attacked. Captain Reeves glanced at Liam. Is this the only other survivor? Yes, Tana confirmed. Technician Liam Hardo. The captain made a subtle gesture, and one of her soldiers stepped forward, scanning device in hand. Hardo, Liam. Junior maintenance technician. No security clearance. The soldier looked at Captain Reeves. Expendable witness protocol? Reeves nodded. Standard procedure. The words hung in the air for a moment before the soldiers began to fan out, methodically searching the fabrication bay. One moved toward a storage locker, rifle sweeping back and forth. Another checked behind the workbenches. The third approached Liam directly, scanner still humming. Arms out, legs apart, the soldier ordered, voice metallic through his helmet speaker. Liam complied, watching as Tana was similarly approached by Captain Reeves. They were separating them, he realized. Divide and isolate, standard military procedure. What does that mean? Tana asked, tension evident in her voice. Expendable witness protocol? It means, Reeves said calmly, that Technician Hardo has seen and heard things above his clearance level. Coalition protocol is clear on how to handle such situations. Understanding crystallized in Liam's mind. They were going to kill him, a casualty of the station explosion, his body left floating in space with the rest of the debris. No one would question it. No one would know. The soldier scanning him paused at his pocket, where Tana's memory token rested. She had given it to him for safekeeping while they worked on her armor. Unknown object detected, the soldier reported. Potential contraband. Hand it over, the second soldier demanded, rifle now pointed directly at Liam's chest. It's not mine, Liam said, slowly reaching for his pocket. It belongs to... Don't care whose it is, the soldier cut him off. Hand it over. The tension in the room shifted. Something primal and protective flared in Liam's chest. The token was Tana's last connection to her home, her mother, her identity beyond the military. He couldn't let them take it. His fingers closed around the metal piece in his pocket. The soldier took a step closer, rifle barrel now centimeters from Liam's face. 3 seconds before I consider this resistance, the soldier warned. Across the room, Tana was being fitted with restraint cuffs by Captain Reeves. Their eyes met briefly, hers widening as she saw Liam's hand still in his pocket, the soldier's increasingly aggressive stance. She gave a small, almost imperceptible shake of her head. Don't. 1, the soldier counted. Liam's muscles tensed. He could swing his arm up, knock the rifle aside. He'd seen Taina do it during their improvised combat training. The element of surprise might give him the split second needed to. 2. To what? Attack a trained soldier? Create a distraction so Taina could what? She was already cuffed. There was nowhere to run. Liam, Taina called, her voice cutting through the tension. Give it to them. Her use of his first name, not technician, not hardo, startled everyone in the room. In that moment, her eyes held his in a look so intense, so full of meaning, that it seemed to freeze time around them. This isn't the fight, that look said. Not yet. Slowly, Liam withdrew his hand from his pocket, the memory token resting on his palm. The soldier snatched it away. Some kind of storage device? The soldier asked, turning it over. Ornamental, Captain Reeves said dismissively after a glance. Bag it with the rest of their possessions. Understanding dawned on Liam's face. They were going to kill him. No, Taina said firmly. He's under my protection. Captain Reeves raised an eyebrow. Commander, you know the protocols, the technology and intelligence at stake. I said no. Taina stepped fully in front of Liam. He saved my life. Twice. He's coming with us. That's not your decision to make, Commander. Your rank doesn't override security protocols. Reeves turned to the soldiers. Secure the technician. Standard containment procedure. The soldiers moved forward. Taina raised her weapon. Commander Voss, Reeves said sharply, think about what you're doing. Your career. Your oath to the coalition. Liam placed a hand on Taina's arm. Don't, he whispered. Don't be a hero. Just leave. I'm not worth it. Taina looked at him, then back at the soldiers advancing toward them. In one fluid motion, she raised her rifle and fired, into the wall beside the soldiers. The blast ricocheted off the metal, causing the soldiers to dive for cover. In the confusion, Taina grabbed Liam and pulled him toward a side exit. What are you doing? He gasped as they ran. I don't know yet, she replied, her voice tense. Working on it. They heard shouts behind them as they entered another maintenance tunnel. Taina's tactical display showed multiple heat signatures in pursuit. Why? Liam demanded as they ran. Why risk everything for me? Because they're wrong, Taina said simply, and I've followed wrong orders before. They reached a junction. Taina checked her display. 3 coming from the left, 2 from behind. Right is our only option. Right leads to a dead end, Liam warned. Then we make a stand there. They had barely turned the corner when a shot hit the wall beside them. Taina pushed Liam ahead, turning to return fire. Her injured leg slowed her down, and a second shot grazed her shoulder. Liam reached the end of the corridor first. It terminated at a sealed maintenance hatch. Beyond it, nothing but vacuum. He frantically searched for options, finding only an emergency equipment locker. Inside were 2 pressure suits, basic models designed for brief exposure to space during external repairs. Taina, he called. I have an idea. She backed toward him, still exchanging fire with their pursuers. Whatever it is, make it fast. Liam pointed to the suits. We can spacewalk to the auxiliary hangar. It's only 300 meters along the hull. In those? Taina looked skeptical. They're not designed for combat conditions. Got a better idea? A shot hit Taina's already injured leg, causing her to stumble. Liam caught her before she fell. No, she admitted through gritted teeth. I don't. Working quickly, Liam helped Taina into one of the pressure suits. It wasn't designed to fit over armor, so she had to remove most of her remaining plating. The brace he'd made remained, now secured outside the suit. They're getting closer, Taina warned as Liam finished sealing her helmet. Almost ready. He donned his own suit, hands shaking as he connected the life support systems. These only have 30 minutes of oxygen. We'll need to move fast. I'll slow you down, Taina said, gesturing to her twice-injured leg. Then I'll carry you if I have to. The pursuing soldiers were at the final bend in the corridor. In moments, they would have a clear line of fire. Liam activated the emergency override for the maintenance hatch. Ready? Taina nodded, gripping his arm. Together. The hatch slid open, and the vacuum of space instantly pulled at them. They held on to the interior handles as the corridor behind them decompressed violently, sending their pursuers scrambling for support. Using the momentary advantage, Liam and Tana pushed off from the hatch, propelling themselves outside the station and onto its hull. Emergency magnetic boots activated automatically, allowing them to walk across the metal surface. 300 meters, Liam said over the suit's comm system. That way. He pointed toward a protruding section of the station that housed the auxiliary hangar. Between their position and the target were twisted metal, debris, and the vast emptiness of space. They began moving as quickly as the magnetic boots would allow. Tana struggled with each step, her injured leg threatening to give out completely. Liam stayed close, supporting her when necessary. 25 minutes of oxygen remaining, chimed the suit's automated system. Behind them, the maintenance hatch had been sealed, but Liam's tactical display, synced from Tana's helmet, showed heat signatures moving through the station, converging on the hangar. They were trying to cut them off. They'll beat us there, Liam said, quickening his pace. Options? Tana's breathing was labored, each word a struggle. Liam scanned their surroundings. The station's damage was extensive, with several sections already breaking away. Then he spotted it, a ruptured fuel line near the hangar's exterior wall. There, he pointed. Fuel leak. And? Distraction. Tana followed his gaze, understanding immediately. Too close to only chance. They exchanged a look through their helmet visors. No words needed. Tana nodded once. They continued their precarious journey across the hull. When they were 50 meters from the hangar, Liam detached a small tool from his suit's utility belt. Repair laser, he explained. Not a weapon, but... Do it, she cut him off. They positioned themselves behind a section of debris. Liam's hand wasn't quite steady. Tana reached over, her gloved fingers closing over his, stabilizing his aim. Together they directed the laser at the fuel line. The beam was nearly invisible in space, but its effect was immediate. The fuel ignited in a silent, brilliant flash that rippled along the hull. Their visors automatically darkened against the flare. When they cleared, Liam found Tana's eyes already on his. Intense, determined. Her hands still covered his. Now, he shouted, pulling her toward the hangar's emergency airlock. The exterior door was still functional, cycling open at their approach. They tumbled inside, the artificial gravity reasserting itself as the chamber pressurized. Tana collapsed against the wall, her leg finally giving out completely. Liam knelt beside her. Blood had seeped through the temporary bandage on her leg, staining the inner layer of her pressure suit. Without speaking, he took a sealant pack from his suit's emergency pouch and pressed it against the wound. His hands moved efficiently, repairing what he could. Tana watched him work, her breathing gradually steadying. When he finished, their eyes met again. In the small confines of the airlock, they were closer than they'd been before. Neither spoke, neither needed to. 13 minutes of oxygen remaining, the suit announced, breaking the silence. The inner door slid open to reveal the hangar, miraculously intact, though darkened by the power fluctuations caused by their improvised explosion. At the center sat a single shuttle, its systems glowing with standby power. Our ride, Liam said, helping Tana to her feet. Her arm went around his shoulders, her weight against his side. Each step was a shared effort, each meter gained, a victory. They had taken 3 steps when the hangar's main door opened. Captain Reeves entered with 4 soldiers, weapons trained on them. Impressive, Reeves said, approaching slowly. But this ends now. Tana straightened, pulling away from Liam's support to stand on her own. Her injured leg trembled, but held. He saved me, she said, voice steady despite the pain. Won't let you. Protocol is clear, Commander, Reeves interrupted. Security? Not about security. Tana's hand found Liam's, squeezing once before letting go. About being human. Reeves raised her weapon. Final warning. Tana looked at Liam, something fierce and decided in her eyes. She stepped forward, placing herself between him and the soldiers, despite her injury. He pulled me out, she said, each word deliberate. Didn't run. Step aside, Commander. That's an order. Not anymore. With deliberate movements, Tana reached up and tore the commander's insignia from her suit. She held it for a moment, all her years of service, of following orders, of being part of the machine, then let it fall to the floor. The small metal disc hit the deck with a sound that seemed impossibly loud in the tense silence. Reeves' expression flickered. Confusion, then anger. "You're throwing away your career for a technician?" Tana didn't answer. Instead, she dropped to one knee. The movement was slow, deliberate, theatrical almost. Not a collapse from her injury, but a conscious choice. The hangar fell into absolute stillness, the only sound the distant creaking of the dying station and the soft hiss of breathing through suit intercoms. The soldiers exchanged uncertain glances. This wasn't in any protocol they'd been trained to follow. A commander, an elite warrior with over a dozen combat citations, kneeling before a junior technician. Reeves froze, her weapon still raised but her finger easing away from the trigger. "Commander Voss," she said, her voice suddenly less certain. "What are you doing?" Tana didn't answer. Her eyes, visible through her helmet visor, were fixed on Liam's. In them was a question, a challenge, an affirmation. All at once. A soldier to her left shifted uncomfortably. "Captain," he murmured. "This isn't—" "Silence," Reeves hissed. But the fracture in her authority was already showing. Liam stood motionless, caught in the gravity of the moment. The insignia Tana had torn from her suit lay between them on the floor, a small circle of metal that represented everything she had been. Everything she was walking away from. The seconds stretched into an eternity. No one moved. No one spoke. The station itself seemed to hold its breath. Sweat beaded on Reeves' forehead. One of the soldiers lowered his weapon, just slightly, enough to be noticed. The air in the hangar grew thick with tension, with the weight of a choice being made that would ripple beyond this moment, beyond this dying station. Liam could hear his own heartbeat, feel the staggered rhythm of his breathing. His eyes never left Tana's. In them, he saw not just the warrior he'd met in the rubble, but the woman who spoke of her sister, who carried a memory token from a homeworld of ice and oceans, who laughed when he wiped dirt from her cheek. Her right hand rested on her injured leg, her left pressed against the floor for balance. Yet there was nothing submissive in her posture. It was the stillness of a predator choosing its moment. The station groaned, a deep, metallic sound that vibrated through the deck plates. Somewhere distant, something tore free and was lost to space, a reminder that time was running out. Still, Tana waited. Still, Liam stood frozen. The moment stretched thin, fragile as glass. Then, with the same deliberate slowness, Tana looked back at Liam, her expression resolute through her helmet visor. "Your order, Commander?" she asked, her voice carrying clearly through the comm system. For a moment, Liam didn't understand. Then it hit him. She was acknowledging him as her superior, in front of witnesses, a complete inversion of military hierarchy. No one dared move. The soldiers looked to Captain Reeves, confused by this unprecedented breach of protocol. Reeves herself seemed momentarily speechless. Liam stepped forward, the sound of his boot on the deck breaking the spell. He reached down, not to help Tana rise, but to take her hand. Their fingers interlaced, pressure suit against pressure suit. "We leave," he said simply. "Together." "You can't," Reeves began, her voice trailing off as Liam helped Tana to her feet, their hands still joined. "Already are," Liam replied, not looking back as they moved toward the shuttle. The soldiers raised their weapons, awaiting the order. Reeves' mouth opened, closed, opened again. Something in Tana's act of defiance, of choosing conscience over command, had shaken her certainty. "Captain?" one of the soldiers prompted, rifle aimed at Liam's back. Reeves watched the pair for a long moment, then slowly lowered her weapon. "Stand down," she said finally. "Let them go." The soldiers hesitated, confused. "The station's breaking apart," Reeves added, her voice hollow. "They won't get far." But her words lacked conviction. Liam and Tana reached the shuttle, the door opening automatically at their approach. Inside, the systems were functional, if basic. Navigation, life support, and just enough fuel to reach the nearest outpost. Tana collapsed into the co-pilot's seat, her face pale beneath her helmet visor. "Can you fly this?" she asked, voice tight with pain. Liam's hands moved over the controls, muscle memory from his basic training taking over. "Watch me." The console lit up beneath his fingers. Warning lights flashed, structural integrity compromised, fuel reserves minimal, navigation systems unreliable. He ignored them all. The hangar doors began to close. Reeves's final attempt to stop them. Liam slammed the thrusters to maximum. The shuttle lurched forward, engines screaming in protest. Metal scraped against metal as they squeezed through the narrowing gap with centimeters to spare. They were free. The dying station fell away behind them, its once proud silhouette now jagged and broken. Liam's hands trembled as he disengaged the autopilot that had been preset for the nearest Coalition outpost. Instead, he input new coordinates, personal coordinates. "Where are we going?" Tana asked, her voice weak. "Somewhere they won't look," Liam replied. "Somewhere safe." She didn't question him further, drifting in and out of consciousness as the shuttle pushed its engines to their limit. Hours later, they approached a small, ice-covered moon orbiting a gas giant. As they descended, a landscape of endless white came into view, and in the shadow of jagged ice mountains, a small structure stood alone. "Home," Liam said softly as he guided the shuttle down. 6 weeks later, the shuttle's signal had disappeared from Coalition tracking systems. The official report labeled Commander Tana Voss and technician Liam Hardo as presumed casualties of the Helios Station incident. But Liam knew better than to believe they'd stop looking. His home, a prefabricated habitat module nestled in a narrow valley, sat nearly invisible from orbit, its thermal signature masked by geothermal vents. Inside, Tana sat in a chair by the small viewport, wrapped in a thermal blanket, staring out at the endless expanse of ice. Her leg was healing, slowly but healing nonetheless. In her hands, she worked with the strip of sea thread fabric, weaving it into an intricate pattern. "The storm's letting up," Liam said. Tina nodded without looking away from her work. "Another will come, always does on worlds like this." He moved closer. "More pain today?" "Less." She finally looked up at him, her eyes clearer than they'd been in weeks. "You have questions." It wasn't a question, but an acknowledgement of the unspoken tension between them. So many choices made in crisis, now settling into something more permanent. "Why did you do it?" he asked finally. "On the station. You gave up everything." Tana's hands stilled, the half-finished bracelet resting in her lap. "Did I? I'm not worth what you lost. You think that's why I did it?" She studied him with new understanding. "For you. Wasn't it?" "It was for me." She held his gaze. "I spent my life following orders, being what others needed. You were just the first person who showed me I could choose differently." Liam looked away. "I'm not a savior. I just couldn't let go." Her expression softened. "Why did you come out here, Liam? So far from everything." "I didn't leave because of people," he said, the words coming from somewhere deep and unexamined. "I left because with someone, I might become too necessary." Before Tana could respond, a sharp alarm sounded from the habitat's security system. He moved quickly to the control panel. "Drone," he said tersely. "Coalition design." Tana struggled to her feet. "They found us." "It might just be a routine sweep," Liam said, though he didn't believe it. "No," Tana shook her head. "They're looking for us. For me." They watched as the drone hovered over the valley, then disappeared over the ridge. Neither of them slept that night. The next morning, the alarm sounded again. This time, it wasn't a drone. "Drop ships," Liam reported grimly. 3 of them. They watched as the vessels descended, hovering a few hundred meters from the habitat. When the snow cleared, armored figures were advancing in combat formation. A voice boomed across the external speakers. "Commander Voss, come quietly. We know you're there. The technician will be forgotten." Liam turned to Tana, who stood by the habitat's rear airlock, already pulling on a thermal suit. "There's a maintenance tunnel under the east section. You can lose them while I—" "No." Her voice was calm, certain. She'd finished the sea thread bracelet during the night. Now she held it out to him. "This time I'll tell them who I am." Liam stared at the bracelet, then at her. "Tina, they'll take it." She pressed the bracelet into his palm. "On my world, these are given to mark bonds that can't be broken. Not by distance, not by time, not by duty." Before he could respond, she was moving toward the main airlock. Liam followed, the bracelet clutched tightly in his hand. "What are you doing?" he demanded. She paused. "In the 6 weeks we've been here, you've never asked why I carry that memory token, or what the sea thread means to my people. I figured you'd tell me when you were ready. Among my clan, a commander isn't just a military rank. It's a position earned through proving one's worth to the community." She touched the spot where her insignia had once been. I was proud of that rank, but I earned it serving a system that would execute an innocent man for protocol. So you're going out there to surrender? No. She activated the airlock cycle. I'm going out there to make a choice. Publicly. The outer door slid open. Tina stepped through without hesitation, Liam following, the bracelet now around his wrist. Outside, the soldiers had formed a semicircle around the habitat's entrance, weapons raised. Behind them, the drop ships loomed like predatory birds. On the command vessel hovering above, officers watched in silence, data streaming directly to their displays. No cameras, no public broadcast, just military witnesses to whatever would unfold. Tina walked forward, her steps leaving clear imprints in the fresh snow. 10 meters from the line of soldiers, she stopped. Then, with deliberate slowness, she lowered herself to one knee in the snow. But she wasn't looking at the soldiers or their commanding officer. She was looking back at Liam, standing in the doorway of his small home, and she was smiling. Not a smile born of pain or relief or desperate humor in the face of death. This was different, radiant, defiant, the smile of someone making a choice with absolute clarity. "Your order, Master," she called. On the bridge of the command vessel, silence fell. Officers exchanged glances. Fingers hovered over communication panels. No one gave the order to fire. The soldiers shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't protocol. A decorated commander kneeling not in surrender to them, but in allegiance to a civilian technician. Liam stepped forward, the bracelet of sea thread catching the pale sunlight. He walked until he stood beside Tina, then placed his hand against her cheek. The touch said everything words couldn't. "I see you. I choose you too." He turned to face the soldiers. "She's not yours anymore," he said simply, "and neither am I." For several heartbeats, no one moved. The soldiers looked upward, awaiting orders. In orbit, commanders watched, calculating, weighing options. Finally, the voice came again over the speakers, less certain than before. "Stand down. They're outside jurisdiction. We'll monitor." One by one, the soldiers lowered their weapons. The commanding officer gave a sharp hand signal, and they began retreating toward the dropships. Snow began to fall again. Liam extended his hand to help Tina up, but she shook her head. "On my world," she said, "this position means something else too. It's how we asked to join a new clan." Liam's throat tightened with understanding. "And the master thing? That was for them." To confuse the protocols. She grew serious. "The real question is, will you accept me into your home? Not as a fugitive, as family." Liam knelt in the snow before her, bringing them eye to eye. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. "I've been accepting you since I wiped dirt from your cheek on a dying station," he said. He placed his hand against her cheek again, and this time, she reached up and covered it with her own. Her fingers wrapped around his wrist where the sea thread bracelet rested. A physical anchor, a silent promise. Together they stood and walked back toward the small habitat. Above, the drop ships lifted off, disappearing into the cloud cover. And the sky did not fire. Inside, the memory token sat on a small shelf beside the viewport, no longer hidden, but displayed proudly. A family relic, the first of many. As they closed the door against the gathering storm, Liam knew that somewhere out there, the coalition was still watching, still calculating. Let them watch. Some choices were worth making, even when the whole system was watching. Some bonds couldn't be broken. Some homes weren't places, but people who stood beside you when everything else fell apart.